Greetings and bienvenue, Midnight Crew. Thank you for returning to this broadcast. And welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
What is your most irrational fear? That fear you know is illogical, but even then, just can't stop being scared of it anyway. I'll start with one of mine. It's that the birds flying outside my window have a camera on them and are spying on me.
Apologies if this is phrased weirdly, I'm not really sure how to put this into words. I don't really know if this is technically a fear or not, but I get uneasy when I'm on a body of water that's dark, either from murk, depth, or both, and I can clearly see a lone weed or log amidst the darkness if the water. I know it's just a natural part of the lake/pond/whatever, and I have no idea what causes it. I think it's because whatever it is so clearly visible against the dark water, thus it's exposed and vulnerable to whatever's in the darkness. This is pure speculation, however. Anyone else have similar fears?
Nope, your fear is not irrational. Once I went to a lake with friends, we swim in it in a depth of 2 meters. Were a lot of plants, I found it funny to dive into them. Dived around 3.5 meters surrounded by those plants. When I wanted to get back on the surface, I got stuck in the plants. It was like they would pull me down, not letting me escape. I tried to rip and pull them off from my body till I managed to free myself. When I was again at the surface, I was full of those plants. They were like wire. I nearly drowned, and I swear I'm not going to do this again.
I think it's because our ancestors have died in water like this, so we've inherited this fear, same for me.
I'm scared of butterflies and dogs, but animals in general. But to generalize it, I'm afraid of creatures that are quick and capable of outmaneuvering my slow and clumsy self. They typically act completely avoidant of my presence and tend to act hostile. An example would be my cat. I don't mind when he lays down and bites me, when I pet. It's moments where I am vulnerable, such as stairs. With avian creatures, it's the same, although I see their resting on surfaces as some sort of territorial claim.
I'm scared of tigers and lions, probably wolves too. The notion of looking down a loaded barrel at a tiger terrifies me.
Failure. I'm an active duty Marine. I'm a stone's throw from finishing my bachelor's degree with a 4.0 on my off-duty time, which is really just a formality at this point just so I can go into federal law enforcement, which requires a degree, when I get out. I also work part-time on weekends at AutoZone and have a healthy love of cars and mechanics, to the point where I'm considering using my GI Bill to pursue auto tech school once I get out of the Marines as a backup career to law enforcement. I have lots of money in the bank, my health, and a young, beautiful, loving wife. Yet I have this irrational, crippling fear of losing it all and ending up a drunk, homeless vet on the streets. It keeps me up at night and drives me to devote 60 hours a week at work. Honestly, it's probably from my mom telling me I'll never amount to shit.
It's like what you said, but not failing only in my future life. I'm afraid of starting something that I can't finish. I don't play games I think I can't finish. I don't commit to something if I think I would give up along the way.
So mine is a bit multifaceted and it's pretty irrational. I have no idea where it comes from. I can't explain it. I'm fearful of very deep water, dark water, or murky water. The fact that brain-eating amoebas can be found in water is also not a happy thought. While I don't want to run into a shark, my fear is not so much creatures in water. It's stuff either completely or partially in water, particularly shipwrecks, buoys, mossy boulders, seaweed, pipes, etc. Pick-related.
Dead things. Anything dead will immediately cause me to panic, even if it's something small like dead beetles or a mouse. And it's especially bad when it comes to dead birds. It sucks because I live in a rural area and tend to run into dead critters.
I'm an obsessive hypochondriac, so I'm always fearful of contacting some serious disease or cancer. Right now I'm scared of brain cancer, or just losing my mind in general. Like whenever I have weird half-asleep thoughts or lose my train of thought, I fear it's a sign. I'm also scared of the impermanence of life, I guess. Sometimes I fear I'll wake up in the morning and not be myself anymore. My friend puts it as I'm not what the hippies call grounded.
Centipedes. Just seeing them makes me cringe and tremble, and when they move, I gasp in fear and try to get as far away from them as possible. Just earlier today, there was one sticking around on my wall for about 5 hours straight before it suddenly curled up and died. It took me over an hour of panicking before deciding to blow its body away from my books and off my desk. I don't know why I have such a horrible fear of them, but I do know that it's very irrational.
I feel uneasy when I'm near windows. I always fear that there is a sniper waiting to shoot me. I don't even know why would anybody want to shoot me. I'm also scared of insects, especially by the flying ones. Also diseases, especially brain cancer, even though I feel well.
Biggest fear? AI, no doubt. Deus Ex and 2001 Space Odyssey have ruined most technology things for me that have an automatic control.
I have an irrational fear of locked-in syndrome. I've told my sister if anything like that should happen to me, I want to die. After reading about the guy who had to watch Barney for 8 hours a day for 12 years, I was close to tears. Can't do it.
Get your will and all that kind of shit straightened out. Locked-in syndrome is just awful. If this existence isn't a literal plane of hell, then at very least it's set up, intentionally or by chance, to be very hellish for all life living here.
My best friend's brother had a stroke when he was 18 and has this now, sort of. He was in a coma and doctors wanted to pull the plug, but he woke up a few days later. He has a Stephen Hawking eye movement computer and can communicate luckily. He can also control a wheelchair somehow.
I get horrible night terrors for the last year or so. It's created a lot of irrational phobias I didn't have before. I'm afraid of being alone in a room. I'm afraid of mirrors. I'm afraid of the dark. I'm afraid of having too many people in a room. I'm afraid when I can't see people's faces. If I can't see their face, they might not have a face. I'm afraid of drying up in the sunlight like a raisin. I'm afraid of dogs and people with hats on. These fears prevent me from operating as a normal human being sometimes. I try my best, but the anxiety attacks are awful. It's just so hard to discern dreams from reality. I try my best, but they can just be so real.
When you have a night terror, is it like having an extremely unpleasant nightmare, or is there more to it?
I classify a night terror as any nightmare that I can't go back to sleep after.
You should try looking into a mirror in a dark room while alone. You can face these fears and come out stronger.
Seems like you're in an uncomfortable situation in life. Besides the fact that you have night terrors and all these irrational fears, you should try and figure out what's bothering you so much before it gets out of hand.
Slugs, snails. I'll scream and cry. It's total phobia. Starfish as well. Just absolutely revolting beyond a doubt. I super wish these creatures didn't exist. 99% of them can't do anything to me, and the only snails I ever come close to are aquatic in a fish tank, which is fine. Just don't touch me. It's so bad that I wouldn't even kill one because I just don't want to touch it.
I'm so damn scared of snails too. It's completely irrational, but I feel like they're just here to kill me, or I don't know, slime me to death.
A little late to the party, but I get paranoid when people stare at me. And if they look like me or a member of my family, I will often leave. I am concerned that it is a family member. Sometimes even myself from the future sent to study me for whatever reason. I also get worried that the government can hack into my eyes and see through them like fiber optics, seeing what I see and hearing what I hear. How screwed up is that?
People standing, walking, and existing behind me. I get caught in politeness loops of holding doors for people or letting people walk in front of me, but it's purely selfish. It just gives me crazy anxiety to feel someone behind me. Also, it's been said before, but silence. I've slept with white noise, usually a box fan, my entire life. Now, as an adult, being in a silent room by myself makes me gradually more and more stressed out until I'm convinced either some horrific loud noise will break the silence, or B, I'll be trapped in dead quiet forever. If I'm in a silent room with others, I'm always paranoid they can hear my breathing, which leads to, oh God, they can hear my thoughts.
Clowns and puppets, especially clown puppets. Probably because my mother is collecting them, so the house is full of them. Especially when I was a wee lad, I spent long nights playing Vidya, and the display case where she had the puppets was next to the PC, so those things would stare at me all night. She even has a really big messed up one that once fell down the stairs or so. and now has a twisted neck, so it would always watch you from an impossible angle, grinning like a demon. That and suffocating because the air on the planet runs out. I once had a nightmare where suddenly the air on the planet ran out, and everyone who didn't suffocate on the spot was fighting over the last few bottles of oxygen, in diving shops and the like, just to live a few hours longer.
I always have some kind of injury or open wound or some other bullshit because I'm clumsy. Getting into public pools or other similar things terrifies me. I'm paranoid about catching STDs. A lady at work was talking to me today and was complaining so hard she spit a little and it landed on my lip. I was rubbing my mouth on my shirt for like 10 minutes. I don't even care about germs from the ground half the time, even though there's so much shit that could be there. But if there are people present and I know it comes directly from them, it makes me feel afraid.
I have a fear that people, friends, family, strangers even, are constantly trying to poison or drug my food and drinks. I know it's wildly irrational and can usually get past it and just eat the food or drink and I'm absolutely fine. But every once in a while, if I leave my drink or food unattended, I have to trash it and make new.
I don't know how else to explain it. I should have said specifically fish, but some other creatures, tube worms plus some crustaceans plus squids, octopi, jellyfish, etc., freak me out. I'm okay with most sharks plus all that deep sea shit with long nasty fangs, all that's okay. I can't even look at basking sharks. I think maybe the only exceptions to this are probably whale sharks.
I've dealt with obsessive-compulsive disorder my entire life. So 24/7 I am dealing with irrational fears and am plagued by constant what-if questions. What if I have cancer? Oh God, I need to check my pulse. I have cancer. What if I'm having a heart attack? I remember hallucinating burglars outside my window as a child after having a nightmare about my house being burglarized. I couldn't leave my house for weeks. I have agoraphobia, but it gets better and worse, then better, then worse. Sometimes I'm able to get groceries. Sometimes I can't leave my house for weeks at a time out of fear that I may vomit or get killed. There's always a possibility. It sucks. Also, I'm scared people are able to read my thoughts. I know it's irrational because it's, what if people can read my thoughts? And I get extremely panicky and anxious rather than I know people are reading my thoughts, which would be plain psychosis rather than OCD obsessions. I get scared of everything.
I suffer the same thing. I'm always going to the doctor to make sure there's nothing wrong with me. I'm scared I'll stop breathing while I'm asleep. Sometimes I wake up short of breath or feeling pressure on my chest. Nothing actually wrong with my heart or lungs. Once I couldn't feel my pulse and was convinced I no longer had one.
It might be sleep apnea.
Maybe, though I'm not fat and I don't snore since I stopped obsessing over it, it hardly ever happens anymore.
There are two fears that make it very difficult for me to live a normal life. They're almost debilitating some days, especially when combined. The first is that my body will somehow fail. It doesn't matter in what way, just the fact that it can scares me. Aneurysm, stroke, heart attack, everything like that. It's constantly on my mind and I can't shake it unless I'm writing or playing particularly intense video games. For almost 2 years, I had the acute fear that my lungs would just stop working. Anytime I wasn't actively focusing on my breathing, I'd start feeling a moderate score of anxiety. These fears are completely irrational, as I've had several checkups that just affirm my good health. But they exist nonetheless and pervade my every thought. The second is that my food or drink will be tampered with if I'm not around it. It stops me from enjoying every meal out with friends. It stops me from even letting loved ones cook for me unless I'm there with them every step of the way. If I'm ever away from a drink, I will come back to it and throw it away, even if I had only taken a few sips before. The odds of being poisoned, even purposefully, are astronomically low. But as stated earlier, these are irrational fears, and even years of therapy have done nothing to quell them. I'm always amazed at the simple action that is leaving your food with strangers, only to come back and continue eating it. It seems such an impossible task to me.
I usually have these dreams in which I feel something is screwing with me and I need to wake up or I'll have a nightmare, so I force myself to wake up. I don't always have them, but when I do is just long nights of forcing myself to wake up every 30 minutes. Sometimes I have fake wake-ups, like if my dream was trying to trick me into thinking I woke up so I will relax, but I usually catch up when something non-logical happens, so I try again. I normally go through 3 or 4 layers of fake dreams till I finally wake up. Also, I didn't always had them, nor was I always able to wake up. I have had them since I was 15, and I've been able to wake up at will since a weird dream I had where Angel sent me a message. That dream in particular was extra strange in that. 1. The dream itself showed me what I should strive to do in life. And 2. The dream gave me a number which, when I opened a Bible and said page number, it was a passage of Jesus talking to an apostle with my name. I had never read the Bible, so there's no way my subconscious knew it was there. I didn't even know the story, if anyone is interested. The dream was basically about me needing to shit a poisoned well in front of a lot of mind slaves so they would refrain from drinking out of it and dying.
I'm 24 years old, a man in my own right. I'm still afraid of the dark. More specifically, afraid of anywhere that is quiet and dark. I keep the light in my closet on when I go to sleep at night. I turn on the hallway light when taking a piss in the early hours, even though my bathroom is literally across the hall. I also always check behind the shower curtain before doing my business, and always look in the back seats of my car before starting it and driving away. I refuse to sleep in front of a mirror. I'm afraid the second I'm starting to doze off, my reflection will do things on its own. Afraid that my reflection will be staring at me as I sleep. I always look behind me when closing the mirror door on my medicine cabinet. If I can't find the light switch in a dark room within a few seconds, I start to panic.
Yeah, I've heard this one before, that's fun. My fear is that I'm somehow wandered onto the stage of a hyper-convoluted sitcom, where everyone in my life are paid actors and everything is scripted. That I'm the only one who didn't realize this, and I'm the most imperceptive, horrendously stupid person on the planet, or whatever you call a place that exists as only a fabricated stage designed to look like a planet, and everyone so far has been going along with it, out of pity, because I would literally have a heart attack and die if I ever found out this was really the case. And before I just described US politics to a T. Seriously though, that would freak me out. The only saving grace is, this by my accounts, the least possible, but never really unprovable thing that could ever happen to me, even as propagandist military groups speed headlong as quickly as they can to make this kind of camera-based hell their reality. Complete psychos in their addiction to disinformation campaigns.
I had a similar fear when I was younger. Used to be paranoid that anything with eyes could watch me, even magazines and all of my toys/stuffed animals. I used to always turn all the pictures, magazines, and decorations in the bathroom away from me when I had to go to the bathroom, which was embarrassing as hell the one time I forgot to turn them back and Mom asked me about it.
That sounds like a terrible feeling. How did you get over it, if you did?
I eventually got older and told myself that it didn't matter if they watched me. Who would they tell anyway? I only ever got that feeling when doing private, shameful things. I couldn't imagine if I'd felt that paranoia all the time.
That women can read men's minds and they have a codex that no one talks about it ever. When I look at a girl and think nice, I always think about this, and then I think that they know that I think about it and that's why they don't act weird. But they also know that I think that...
I figure this is what it's like for any man or woman, right? Like even if you don't think someone is attractive, you think about the weird what-ifs you wouldn't say to anyone. I think like that a lot. Women size men up all the time. Sometimes I feel like I'm just acting too friendly and that people will think I have the hots for them when I don't. Or maybe women are just good at reading body language subconsciously? I don't know, dude. If I could read a guy's mind to know exactly the right things to say, I'd take advantage of that. So I wouldn't worry too much if I were you.
I'm not really afraid of much, but every night before I sleep I have to go check behind the shower curtain in the closet. I know with certainty that there is nothing back there, but that tiny 0.0000001% of me will nag and I can't sleep until I check. Not even sure what I'm expecting to find. Maybe some kind of demonic monster thing or a crazy person with a knife. It's more of a compulsion than a fear. Anybody else suffer from something like this? FW already checked shower curtain, but now I'm sitting in bed on X and talking about it, so I'll have to check again before I can sleep.
I've been seeing a therapist who has given me tools to cope with my fears. Like imagining all the awful things floating down a river into the ocean, where they will come back eventually, but the fear is temporarily lessened. The visualization serves as a distraction from oh God, fear, scared, to the floating, which is calming. Also, I believe it's a kind of pattern. Human brains love routine, so I try to break out of that knee-jerk terror reaction. I try to realize my triggers for the fear and note when they're happening and try to rationalize it. Easier said than done, of course. I've also tried exposing myself to the fears. That is picking up spiders, going to social events. And it's hit or miss. It might not be scary sometimes, but the fear doesn't go away completely. I also imagine Spock from Star Trek telling me that I'm being illogical. It helps somehow, haha. Good luck, everyone.
Can't stop thinking of dying, ceasing to exist in the possible afterlife. I don't get why I don't see why others get scared. I mean, it's inevitable for everyone.
I had a similar feeling once. It was after that I decided that the meaning of life must be to feel as good as you can. Because why not enjoy what we have instead of fearing what's coming, or rather what's not? Point being, every time I get the oh no feeling, I try to do something that makes me feel good. Not that I'm saying you should just snap out of it, but maybe it could help you too, if you tried it. I've had that feeling pretty much every day for like 2 years now. I'm not really scared of death, so to say. It's more the fact that you don't know when it'll happen and the act of dying. The thought of being in a situation where you just know you're gonna die terrifies the hell out of me, especially if it's from something uncontrollable and unexpected.
Birds. The smaller they are, the more afraid I am. Not sure if the half-insane, frantic nature of their movements and behavior jars me, or if I am afraid of accidentally hurting them. Used to have nightmares about my bed being covered in tiny sparrows all dead, legs outstretched, and I'd somehow lay down on them without noticing until I was buried in their tiny corpses. Then they'd come to life fluttering and screaming, swarming around my room, pecking and clawing at me and each other, killing each other in the process.
Man, fuck with my shit for a while. Legit found a dead sparrow in my bathrobe pocket 3 days ago. I was high as shit at like 4 a.m., taking a shower and going to bed, my robe always hanging out drying at my terrace. So I dressed up in it and just chill for a while looking at the stars because it's cozy at 4 a.m. in the countryside. So I was getting tired and thinking of going to bed. I stood up and just put my hand in the pocket just to check if there's something in there because I would be throwing it in the laundry. I touch something and I'm like, WTF, did I leave here? I never use this pocket for nothing, grab something squishy, and it's really trippy at this point. You can't imagine my surprise when I pull out a dead fucking sparrow at the dead of the quiet night, all alone in my terrace with the stars above. I just sit there in complete shock for like half a minute just staring at it, wondering if the situation is even real. Then paranoia and disgust take me, and I threw it as far as I could, all sorts of X-tier shit running through my mind at the time, like someone intentionally cursed me with it or something. But then realized birds gather in front of my terrace. It was probably sick and searched for a quiet place to die. Felt guilty for doing it the next day, though, so I buried it and now it's over with. I haven't checked that pocket in 3 days now, LMFAO.
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel as more Greentexts will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.
Remember to check out the Odyssey page in the description for a second archive of the channel's videos.
There's also a Rumble archive as a backup.